This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Kurdish separatists are threatening to increase attacks in Turkey. The statement from the PKK follows a warning from Turkey's Prime Minister. Tayyip Erdogan says he's ready to pay any price to invade northern Iraq and hunt down Kurdish fighters blamed for a series of deadly attacks. Our correspondent Hoda Abdelhamid is in Iraq near the Turkish border and says that while the fighters are unlikely to cross into Turkey, there are still concerns of more tension to come.
Well, we spoke to some sources, PKK sources here in northern Iraq. Now, they are denying that some fighters will go from here into Turkey. They say that 90% of their fighters are already in Turkey, so there's no need for those who are based in northern Iraq to cross the border at this stage.
The Turkish government is asking their parliament for permission to carry out cross-border raids. How's that likely to go down with the Iraqis?
Well, the Iraqis, at least the ones here in northern Iraq, are quite worried about that. They are taking much more seriously now the Turkish threats than they did a couple of months ago. They say that there's a lot of tension at the border, and really what they don't actually believe that there could be a full-scale incursion at this stage, but they do say that the shelling could disturb really the daily life here and could pose a lot of security threats to northern Iraq.
The top U.S. general in Iraq, General Petraeus, has said it would damage supply lines and also the Kurdish economy. I mean, how do you see it, Hoda?
Well, I think General Petraeus is spot on. The northern Iraq is actually the only safe place. Most of the routes, commercial routes into this part of the country and even into the rest of the country have to come through northern Iraq, whether it's through the Turkish border or the Iranian border. Now, when it comes to the Americans, most of their supplies, about two-thirds of their supplies, come through the border with Turkey. The water comes through the border with Turkey. One-third of their fuel comes through the border with Turkey. So that would really damage the American operation here in Iraq and certainly can slow it down at this stage. As for northern Iraq itself, if you go around the market is flooded with Turkish goods. There's a lot of Turkish investments here in roads, in real estate, in also in construction. So it will certainly bring to a standstill the Turkish economy. I was yesterday in the market and speaking to some little businessmen there, and they were telling me that most of their goods come from Turkey, and certainly any kind of further tension will have a direct effect on them.
Blessed Ramadan is a month of prayer and piety that ends today with the Eid al-Fitr holiday for most Muslims around the world. Many Arab and Islamic countries are celebrating Eid today, including the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, Libya, Lebanon, Palestine, Yemen, Tunisia, Turkey, and the Sunnis of Iraq. Eid prayer was held in the holy city of Mecca and was attended by the King of Saudi Arabia, King Abdullah bin Abdul Aziz. More than 1 million Muslims went to the holy mosque in Mecca Haram to attend the special Eid prayer. Meanwhile, Syria, Egypt, Oman, and Algeria announced that today, Friday, is in fact the last day of Ramadan, making Saturday the first day of the Eid celebrations. In Jerusalem, nothing spoils the joy of Eid except for the Israeli occupation blockades that stop people from visiting their families. But even with the restrictions, the Palestinians insist on observing the Friday and Eid prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. All of them pray and hope for the liberation of the land and the termination of the occupation. Mohammed Al-Sayed reports from occupied Jerusalem.
Heading towards Al-Aqsa Mosque on an Eid holiday was different from other Fridays during Ramadan. At Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Jerusalemites prayed and carried out the rituals while keeping their hope alive.
It's as if we're living in a prison here. We're asked for our IDs going in and out of the mosque.
Hopefully the situation will improve and next year will be better than this one.
We just want to make our children happy.
A unique tradition that Palestinians have been following for a long time is visiting who they call the lions sleeping in their graves, or the martyrs, as well as visiting prisoners. There is no home without a member imprisoned or martyred.
My wife and 3 sons have been martyred, and these are their graves. The family was martyred as a result of Israeli forces shelling their family car.
The Eid holiday made the Palestinians briefly forget their sorrow and the barricades that stopped them from visiting their immediate families, which is one of the main components of the Eid holiday. The children play, while adults greet each other, but it is all limited to staying inside the village, the city, or the camp. Palestinians, however, insist on experiencing the real Eid spirit across the Palestinian land without blockades into Jerusalem. Mohammed Sayyid, Dubai Television, Qalandia Checkpoint, Northern Occupied Jerusalem.
وفي اليوم الأول لعيد الفطر المبارك لم تغب التوغلات الإسرائيلية في قطاع غزة.
The first day of the blessed Eid was not free from Israeli infiltrations into the Gaza Strip. The Qassam brigades under Hamas clashed with the Israeli forces that infiltrated the town of Grara, east of Han Yunis in the south. In the West Bank, the occupied forces arrested 4 Palestinians during raid operations last night in Ramallah, Beit Lahim, and Hebron.
فرحة العيد يبدو أنها محرمة أيضا على أطفال العراق فالحلويات تحولت إلى متفجرات تمزق.
In Iraq, children are deprived from experiencing the joy of Eid, where candy turns into bombs, ripping their bodies apart. In Kirkuk, a suicide bomber pushing a candy cart detonated himself at a children's playground, killing 1 child, 1 adult, and injuring about 20 other children. Other children were also killed during a U.S. air raid yesterday that targeted an al-Qaeda suspect in northern Baghdad, killing 15 children and women and 19 soldiers. In the center of Baghdad, 4 people were killed and 15 others were injured due to an explosion of a booby-trapped car targeting a police patrol.
تظاهرت أكثر من 400 امرأة سورية تزوجن في الجولان المحتل أمام مقر الصليب.
More than 400 Syrian women who married men from the Golan Heights held demonstrations outside the Red Cross's headquarters in Jerusalem, demanding that Israel allow them to see their families in Syria.
Syrian women traveled from the Golan Heights to occupy Jerusalem to protest the Israeli police who have banned them from seeing their parents and siblings. They held a demonstration outside the Red Cross headquarters, demanding that more than 400 women be allowed to visit their relatives in Syria. They have not been able to see them since they moved from Syria to the Golan to get married. They have been living in exile for a very long time, as all of their efforts to reunite with their families have failed.
We have our brothers, our family, and our relatives in Syria. We no longer know our family and relatives because we've only been allowed to visit them once in 40 years.
The message was delivered to the Red Cross, but once again, the result was disappointing. Aida was one of the women who demanded that she be allowed to see her family in Syria, but she returned, along with her colleagues, without any tangible results. We accompanied her to the Golan Heights, which has been occupied since 1967. She hopes that she can one day meet with her family and relatives in Damascus. She has not seen them in 27 years. Nothing eases her pain and the pain of all the women as much as sharing stories about their homes in Syria and their neighbors. They go to the Valley of Tears, where they can only see their families from afar, behind electric fences. Aida prays every morning for her father, who died in front of her eyes on the anniversary of the French occupation's withdrawal.
It is a tragedy that I was not even allowed to touch my dying father's hand, not even during the last seconds of his life.
The Qantera crossing point, which is under the control of the International Red Cross, separates the Israeli and Syrian armies. The only individuals who are allowed to cross it are students who are studying in Damascus, religious clergymen, and brides willing to never see their parents and siblings again.
Our problem is a political one. Can you imagine that I've not been able to see my family for 20 years? My father and my nephew died without me being able to see them. My friends and sisters have gotten older, and I do not know anything about them. I have not seen them yet.
Residents of the 5 remaining villages in the occupied Golan Heights carry Israeli identification cards. On these cards, their nationalities are not identified. The Syrian women who held the demonstration also wanted to prevent possible war. They fear that war might be triggered by the threats exchanged between Israel and Syria, as well as the military maneuvers that have been conducted only meters away from the homes of their families. Syria wants to make peace, but with conditions, while Israel is preparing for a possible war with its entire military force. Until tangible changes occur, the suffering of the people here, which seems like madness, will continue. The solution is in the hands of the military commanders and politicians. Ordinary citizens can only wait. They may have to wait for another 40 years. Jivar al-Bideri, Al Jazeera, from occupied Golan Heights.
As the Israeli occupation army escalates its aggression in the occupied territories, some Palestinians are calling for talks to resume as a way to end the division among Palestinians and as a way to end the current crisis.
Tel Aviv
insists on escalating and expanding its aggression against the occupied Palestinian land. This aggression coincides with talks about the peace conference, which is scheduled to take place in the fall, and with the arrival and departure of international diplomats. Tel Aviv's objective is to derail the revival of a true peace process and to stop the efforts that have been exerted to achieve such a peace. As a result, the Palestinian plight faces a dead end, despite the peace conference that is scheduled to take place in the fall. The Palestinian leadership wants to participate in it despite its ambiguity. Can the Palestinians ever remove themselves from these difficult conditions without first creating national unity?
Israel has declared its objectives. Prime Minister Ehud Olmert said that a final agreement will not be reached until 30 years from now. Also, Barak said that Israel should not discuss final status issues. Even Livni announced that she wants to postpone talks regarding final status issues. Considering all this, what will the negotiations be about? Are they going to talk about transitional agreements? The Palestinian Authority has become a security agency for the occupation. We must reject this. What has happened during the past months has proven one thing, which is that we can never get ourselves out of this crisis unless we unite. It is better for us to bring back our national unity so we can continue our struggle for freedom. We should not hold on to illusions that will not bring us peace.
Meanwhile, efforts to resume an internal Palestinian dialogue have not stopped. Efforts were made towards achieving that end, so that the two Palestinian factions could reach an agreement after they were divided over the latest events in Gaza. Will there be a dialogue between Fatah and Hamas? The ousted Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh said that an internal Palestinian dialogue might be held in one of the Arab countries in a few days.
We, Hamas, have welcomed the position that was taken by an Arab country to host a dialogue between Hamas and Fatah. This initiative is similar to what Hamas officials had in mind. This initiative strengthens the Arab position.
National dialogue will help avoid divisions and get the Palestinians out of this crisis. The Palestinians are not capable of acting effectively in any field as long as they are divided.
Palestinians need to unite on their political position so that they can participate in the Middle East Peace Conference and be able to counter Israeli policies. Political unity will also help Palestinians maintain their geographic unity and counter Israeli attempts to divide Gaza from the West Bank.
As the Middle East Peace Conference nears, Tel Aviv has increased its crimes. It lowered the Palestinians' expectations of the International Peace Conference, and now it has been shedding the blood of the Palestinians. Even if we were to assume that the peace conference was actually being held to achieve peace, how will it ever succeed? Yusuf Al-Mahmoud, the Syrian Arab Republic Television, occupied Palestine.
أكدت مصادر إعلامية صهيونية أن موعد انعقاد مؤتمر الخريف الذي
Zionist media sources said that the date for the autumn conference called for by the United States President will be on the 26th of November in the city of Annapolis in the United States. The sources also said that Zionist and Palestinian committees will begin a series of meetings next week to devise an agreement in preparation for the peace conference.
تمهيدا لعقد مؤتمر السلام.
مع اقتراب موعد انعقاد مؤتمر الخريف الذي دعا له الرئيس الأمريكي والذي لم
The upcoming autumn conference called for by the U.S. President has yet to outline clear aims or objectives. Zionist media sources confirm that the conference is set to take place on November 26th in Annapolis in the U.S. Media sources said that the Palestinian and Zionist committees will begin a series of meetings next week with the aim of drafting an accord agreement in preparation for the peace conference. Sources also said that the Zionist Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas will meet in 2 weeks to discuss their points of disagreement. The president of the Facilitating Affairs government, Ismail Haniyeh, warned that the true aim for the United States Autumn Conference is the normalization of relations between Zionism and their Arab countries, particularly Saudi Arabia. This is in addition to the aim of gaining Arab support for U.S. policies regarding Iran and Iraq. The Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak emphasized the need for a clear agenda for the conference to achieve tangible results. He warned that the failure of the conference could lead to a series of crises affecting peace and security in the Middle East. Additionally, 5 prominent former officials in the United States Ministries of Defense and Foreign Affairs presented a new suggestion to push the peace process forward in the Middle East. They suggested making Jerusalem the capital of 2 countries, Zionist and Palestinian, in exchange for giving up the Palestinian refugees' right to return. Western sources said that the U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice will relay the suggestion to both the Palestinian and the Zionist sides, as well as a number of Arab countries, during her visit to the region next Wednesday. The preparations for the autumn conference are underway without the existence of any clear objectives that can be achieved from the conference. This affirms that the conference is only symbolic, aimed at making Arabs and Palestinians come to terms with relinquishing their demands.
We begin in Kirke, where Maronite leaders of the March 14th Alliance met with the head of the Maronite Church, Maronite Patriarch Sfeir. Last night it was MP Michel Aoun and former Minister Sleiman Frangieh who held talks with Sfeir. Here are the details. This morning, Maronite Patriarch Cardinal Sfeir met with Maronite leaders of the March 14th Alliance, Amin Jmail, Samir Jaja, Dori Shamoun, Carlos Edde, Nasib Lahoud, Boutros Harb, and Neila Maawad, as well as Fouad El-Saad, who represented the Maronite MPs of the Democratic Gathering and the Future Bloc. Following the meeting, Jmail hailed the climate as constructive and positive. He hoped that the meeting will pressure Maronite leaders of the majority and the opposition to reach a solution to the crisis and avoid a political void. Jmail hoped that these talks will be the first step towards ending the crisis and that his camp stands by the essential role played by Kirke and the Maronite community. Jmail did not want to give false hope, saying that it will not be the end of the world if a new president is not elected on October 23rd, as his election will take place on November 24th. A day earlier, and after a delay of a few hours, the head of the Free Patriotic Movement, MP Michel Aoun, and Marada leader Sleiman Frangieh made it last night to Kirke for talks with Maronite Patriarch Cardinal Sfeir and with bishops Roland Abu Jawde, Shekrallah Harb, Samir Mazloum, Boulos Matar, and Youssef Bshara. At a press conference following the talks, Aoun hailed the 2-hour meeting as positive and gave a message of hope to the Lebanese, saying he was ready to cooperate with the other camp. He also hoped that the majority would take the same stance.
The U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Relations Committee calls the Armenian massacre a genocide. Why is President Bush against it? Will this matter affect the war in Iraq? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
2 different events recently rattled U.S. relations with one of its main allies in the Middle East, Turkey. First, Turkish warplanes and helicopter gunships launched attacks on Kurdish-controlled regions of northern Iraq, despite U.S. warnings not to do so. Then, a panel in the Foreign Relations Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives infuriated Turkey by passing a resolution on Ottoman killings of Armenians during the First World War, deeming them genocide. Armenians say that it was the first genocide of the 20th century. Hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children were killed by Turkish troops and died of starvation or exposure to the weather when they were driven out of their homes.
All Armenians do not want the Turkish army to come here because in the past there was a massacre. My grandfather told me about it. They slaughtered 1.5 million Armenians.
Turks say the Armenians were killed in battle and that both sides suffered equally. President Bush strongly lobbied against the passing of this measure. On several occasions, the US president condemned the killings in Darfur and referred to what's happening there as genocide. But why does he equivocate when it comes to the Armenian genocide, a well-documented historical event?
I urge members to oppose the Armenian genocide resolution now being considered by the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We all deeply regret the tragic suffering of the Armenian people that began in 1915. But this resolution is not the right response to these historic mass killings. And its passage would do great harm to our relations with a key ally in NATO and in the global war on terror.
The answer is simple. Earlier on Thursday, Robert Gates, the U.S. Defense Secretary, had warned of reprisals from Turkey following the vote. He said Turkey was crucial to U.S. supply lines into Iraq, with 70% of U.S. air cargo, 30% of fuel shipments to U.S. forces, and 95% of new mine-resistant armored vehicles going through Turkey. So principles are out of the window, meaning the measure will most likely be killed in Congress or vetoed by the president.
And there are those that say that every time we discuss this resolution in committee, it's an irritant to our relationship with Turkey. That's the best reason to vote for it here and on the floor. Let us do this and be done with it. We will get a few angry words out of Ankara for a few days, and then it's over. If this irritates our relationship with Turkey, let's stop the irritation by recognizing the truth.
What's interesting on the Middle Eastern front in this whole matter is the fact that the debate is less centered on what happened in Armenia almost a century ago than what's going on right now in Iraq. Political analysts on several Arab satellite TV networks came mum, arguing the case for the Armenians, and instead of going into details about the events of 1915, simply said, remembering the horrors of the past is a worthwhile endeavor, but this was designed by congressmen to make themselves feel good about the most horrible vote of all, voting for the war on Iraq and supporting an ongoing genocide. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic.
Hi, I'm Salome Azizi, host of Bridge to Iran. Every day I tune into Mosaic, world news from the Middle East. It gives me much needed perspective on the world and a connection to current events that I just don't get anywhere else. If you value this as much as I do, join me today in keeping Mosaic world news from the Middle East on the air. Please go to linktv.org and click on the red contribute button or call 1-866-485-8848. For the last few weeks, we've been asking you to support Mosaic. We need to raise $200,000 by year's end to keep this Peabody Award-winning program on the air. Thanks to hundreds of you, we're getting closer and closer to our goal, but still need your support. During our fall fundraiser, we're offering some special gifts for your donations during the Mosaic break. Become a sustaining supporter by signing up for automatic monthly credit card donations in any amount that's right for you. Make your contribution $20 or more per month, and we'll thank you with a Link TV official News Junkie t-shirt. It's for those of you who just can't live without your daily dose of Mosaic or Democracy Now! For $100, we'll thank you with the brand new Link TV 2008 Day and Month Planner, emblazoned with our logo. Use it to keep track of all your favorite Link shows. And for $300 donation, we'll thank you with a Mosaic gift pack. This includes the Link TV 2008 Yearly Planner, our classic Mosaic tote, and a staff favourite DVD such as The Dream of Sparrows or Paradise Now, plus one of our best-selling pledge books such as The Shia Revival by Vali Nasr. You're guaranteed to get a bag filled with some of the best pledge gifts illuminating the Middle East. And more importantly, you'll be ensuring that Mosaic is here for another season. And remember, you can find all of these gifts and more online as well. Just go to linktv.org and click on the red Contribute button, where you can make a safe, secure donation, or call 1-866-485-8848. Take the next few minutes to go online and make that call. I'll be back in just a moment.
Funding for Link TV programming doesn't come from advertisers or government agencies. We rely on individual donations. And whether they know it or not, these are the people that keep us on the air. So to everyone who stands out to help us bring the world together, thanks. Link TV, watched by audiences, funded by individuals.
Thanks so much for all of you who just made that contribution. If you're one of our loyal donors, maybe it's time to give again. A sustaining supporter? How about doubling your gift? Mosaic needs your support more than ever before. With your help, our goal is right there in reach. Thank you for watching and supporting Mosaic, world news from the Middle East.
One nation, many voices. The stories of Muslims in America. At work, at play, having fun. What is life like for the millions of people in this country who practice Islam?
And then finally I looked in my heart, and there he was.
Even today, Muslims still reciting.
Kind of in limbo.
Now's your chance to share stories of Muslims in America in our One Nation, Many Voices online film contest. We're awarding $50,000 in cash prizes divided among 6 categories: comedy, drama, documentary, animation or music, a special category for filmmakers 18 and under, plus films under 60 seconds long. You don't have to be a Muslim to enter or to vote for your favorite films online. You just have to live in the United States. The deadline for entries is November 25th, 2007, so hurry. Check out details at linktv.org/onenation. One Nation, Many Voices. Muslims in America. Stories, not stereotypes.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news. with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.